We'll call the meeting to order, Peter, at 6:05. Are you ready to rock and roll?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mark, we've got on internet, we have Dwight and Chad and I here with Bill and Matt. I think Tammy is online.
Yes.
And so is Kate. So we're only missing Laura, so that's not too bad. Additions or deletions to the agenda?
Rich?
Yes.
So the fact that there was no password on the agenda means that nobody can connect by telephone.
Yeah, that was a problem I had too.
So one, Laura may be trying to do that, and two, I think the temporary law that expires January 15th requires that we have the ability for people to be able to call in.
I apologize. All I did was add another date to our series of meetings, so I didn't change any protections or whatever, but I will double check, and I'm sorry for any challenges that caused that.
Has anyone tried to call in and not been successful that we know of?
I've never known anybody just call in unless their internet doesn't work.
Right, that's true too. I've done it once, but it was so long ago I don't remember.
Can well, the only
Mark, is the meeting ID not
I emailed
the password?
Okay.
It is not.
Okay.
No, I logged in with the meeting ID alone and very quickly.
So how did you get in?
Yeah, I don't understand. That's what I'm not understanding.
How did you get in then?
I had to click on the URL, which contains the password.
Okay.
Oh, so
It contains a hex version of the password, not one that can be used on a telephone though.
Okay.
Or that's translatable, for that matter.
I guess my thing is we've got more people in this meeting than we've had since last time we did something controversial. So, I mean, I think, I don't know. It's up to the board. Do you all want to continue with the meeting, or we can just call it and I'll go home and we'll just rewarn another meeting?
Can you try to get hold of, my concern more is about Laura, mostly about Laura, if she's trying to call in and can't.
I think Bill sent it to her.
I'll continue to try to reach Laura.
Do you want me to text her?
Yeah, I've got it.
But it's not unusual for Laura to show up 10 minutes late, between running around, so I'm not that concerned. Were you able to text her?
I emailed her, but I'll text her.
Okay, we're gonna text her. So what does the board want to do? Does the board want to continue with the meeting? Mark, what do you think? We're doing a straw poll.
I'm really split.
Okay, so I'll give half a vote to each side. How's that?
For me, sure.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a half and a half, Kate. What do you think?
I think Bill's making an effort to reach Laura to make sure that she has what she needs, so I think we can go ahead and continue.
Dwight?
Yeah, I feel the same. We should move forward, but try to contact Laura and see if she can get on, if she's trying to. Yeah, agreed.
I'll keep communicating with her.
Okay, so we're a half over 50% mark. We got 3.5 to a half against, and 2 people not here, or 1 person not voting, 1 person not here. So if nobody has a major issue, then let's continue with the agenda. So we call to order. We have additions or deletions. Oh, here's Laura. Were you trying to call in?
No, sorry, I can't wait for
Okay, so now the gang's all here.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Additions or deletions, I do want to add, under new business, let's add a discussion about policies real quick. We won't be doing any policies, but just discussing the policies. And Mark, on that other thing you asked about with the transportation, send Bill an email reminder and he'll get it warned for you.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So does anybody else have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none. I have on the consent agenda, so I believe we have 3 sets of minutes, the minutes of the June 20th, August 15th, and August 22nd. Have we gotten the notes from Peters for the retreat? Usually retreat, we don't
I saw them.
do minutes, but they're not on here, so we can only do those 3.
I believe they're posted.
Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't include them for you guys to look at.
Yeah, so they're not in the agenda, so we won't do that. So the motion is on the June 20th, June 15th, June 20th, August 15th, and August 22nd minutes. Does anybody have any concerns or comments or questions? Laurie, you good?
Yes.
Mark and Kate?
Good.
You all
You're just
set?
doing this as a consent agenda, right?
Right.
Not a vote.
Yeah, no, it's not a vote. I'm just asking if you're all set, if you had anything on them.
In all honesty, I didn't have a chance to read them. So if we were taking a vote, I'd abstain.
Okay, so Dwight, you said you were good, right?
I'm good.
Okay, so pretty much by unanimous consent, there's no dissension. We'll adopt all those 3 minutes, the minutes of the June 20th, August 15th, and August 22nd, Peter. For the next agenda, Kate, if you can make a note to yourself, we need to add those and these to the first October meeting.
Which ones?
We'll need to do last week's September 12th and September 19th. Those will be voted on, or those will be, adopted at the October, I think it's 6th. We meet, right?
Okay.
5th. October 3rd, wow. Okay, time flies when you're having fun and getting old. Yes,
I apologize. I do have one addition to the agenda. You asked me to remind you that you've got contracts to sign.
oh, yes, Matt, you should have 3.
Yep, it's a
And I
folder.
think Tammy's got 1, right?
There's a folder right at your seat there.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you, Mark. I have no correspondence, though. Do we have any correspondence?
I did not receive them.
Okay. There is no correspondence. I will move on to members of the public, and there's a bunch of you all there. Anybody have anything to? Oh, see, down Tennille's iPhone, she's on, so she must not have needed a code.
No, that's not a dial-in.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
exactly.
Okay.
That's using the app.
Okay. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
I'm hoping people will give their full names.
Yeah, so I have Deidre, Scott, Colleen, Peter. Are you on twice, Peter?
I don't think so.
No, not that I know of.
Okay, the other Peter, can you just give us your, type in your last name? We have to keep a record of who's here, and Peter doesn't tell us who you are. Colleen and Scott and Deidre. Also, can you also please give us your name, last names, type them into your thing?
Colleen Sklar.
Yeah, Colleen, can you add that to your?
Maybe.
They may not know.
Okay.
You click
I don't
on it,
know.
right? You click on your name.
Colleen, Sklar?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. We won't make you do it then.
Okay.
Scott? Peter McDonald, thank you, Peter.
Deirdre Benson.
Deidre Benson? Thank you, Scott Salway. Somebody guessed that it may be you, so they won the door prize tonight. Oh, that was Matt.
I want to split that with Matt.
Okay, you have to come get it. It's a pickle here.
It's a pickle.
Half of the pickles.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. So we're going to move on to members of the staff. I have, do I have any staff here? I don't see any. Is there any staff here, Bill?
I do not see anybody.
Okay. So we'll then move right along to old business. Financial update. Laurie Garland, look at how quick you get up.
Hey, that's great. Thanks, guys. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to bring you a financial update for fiscal year 22 as you're ending that, or you did end that year. It is unaudited. Our audit is scheduled for the 3rd week in October, but I'm feeling pretty good about these numbers here. So I'm hoping everybody has the summary of major fund balances in front of them. Looks like this. Can you see that? Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Laurie, hang on a second. Peter, are you all set, or did you just forget to lower your hand?
Oh, I just forgot. I'm
Okay.
just getting old.
I just want to make sure that if Laurie, you didn't need something before Laurie moved on. Okay, sorry, Laurie.
No problem. So the general fund ended with a surplus of around $381,000. This, of course, will move to reserves. When that happens after the audit, you are looking to start fiscal year 23 with $857,000 in reserves. So that'll come into play when you start budgeting for fiscal year 24, which is right around the corner. You also did not use any fund balance this year for fiscal year 23 to offset taxes. So that number is solid as you're going into fiscal year 24. Does everybody understand what I mean by that?
Yes.
Stop and, stop me if you don't. The other major funds, we have some ESSER funds, and you'll see a negative in some of these, and it's really just a matter of moving the money from Wyndham Central to the district. And they're multi-year funds, so you're going to see some negatives throughout the years. Food service. This one was, I expected actually to use up that fund balance because of some of the decisions great decisions that you made as far as staffing was concerned. And we didn't because we actually received more revenues than expected. And that is a result of the federal government paying for everybody, all the students to eat for free, but they were paying it at a higher rate. They were paying at the seamless summer option rate, which is quite a bit higher than the normal federal rate. So still carrying a $22,000 fund balance into fiscal year 23. The rest of them, the reserve fund we talked about, we get down to Capitol building, that we also moved the $30,000, $20,000 into that fund that the voters voted on, and the $10,000 into Capitol. So Capitol is where the Capital Transportation, where the bus will come from, the purchase of the bus. So I know that is gone out to bid. We have received the bids. I think they've been evaluated and just waiting on the Transportation Committee to meet on that. So that is fiscal year 22 as it ended. And I also provided for you a profit and loss statement through September for fiscal year 23. It's really pretty early to be even looking at this, to be honest with you, but I wanted to give you the information. We just barely today, as a matter of fact, got the cash flow statements from the state, which is when we start booking our revenues that we're going to receive. So you can see revenues are way under budget, but that will change in the next month or so. The other thing that takes a little bit of time is under direct instruction. There's still $2.5 million out there that has not been encumbered for the tuition students. So that takes some time as the bills come in and the admins can go ahead and encumber those. But when you take that into consideration, you're still looking, from a 30,000 foot view, looking pretty good for fiscal year 23 as well. No major concerns there for 23 at this point. Does anybody have any questions, or if I can explain some detail? Peter, I guess. Oh.
Yep, I have one question. How many taxpayers are actually paying school tax?
Well, that's a great question, and I would probably have to ask our town clerk or town treasurer in both districts for that.
Well,
I really don't know.
Everyone pays it.
I've been looking for a number. I know everybody pays it.
Yeah, I would contact the town offices, and that's where you'd get that information.
You're looking for the grand list, I think.
I'm confused because you also kind of pay it in your income tax because even if you're a renter, you're contributing towards it. Peter,
Oh, I thought he asked property tax.
Are you asking for property taxes or?
No, I'm looking for actual how many people are contributing to the school tax budget. If I heard the numbers right, we're going into next year with $800,000 in change in reserves.
Yeah.
And if I heard Laurie correctly, the board decided not to give any type of reimbursement back to the taxpayers. I was just wondering what that translated to per taxpayer.
Well, it's not based on the taxpayer, it's based on the grand list, on the value of the property, because if we decide to give $100 back, it's not like the $100 goes to all the different taxpayers. It would go back, and what it would do is it would reduce the taxes, so we would need less taxing revenue, so it would be dependent on what you pay on the grand list. So the higher the value.
Fair enough. I mean, that's a good answer to the question. So then,
yeah. So
what is the total on the grand list? Do we know?
Well, it's different because it's a blended grand list with the two towns, with Dover and Wardsboro. So we're not really set to have that discussion, Peter, right now, but we are going to shortly. And what we'll do is that $800,000 that sits in reserves, we'll have a discussion about that because we bring that up to the voters every year at our annual school district meeting. You know, in the winter, because we talk about moving money from the reserve fund to help offset the taxes. And when Laurie says we chose not to, I thought we did budget $150 to transfer last year, Laurie.
That was for fiscal year 22. For 23, you did not. But the reason you did not was because, if you remember, it's been a long time, but the Ed Fund ended with $90 million in surplus. And so the yield, dropped, and then that caused the tax rate not artificially, but that caused the tax rate to go down to an acceptable level, basically almost flat with the prior year without using reserves. So it was, from a financial perspective, a good move to make while the yield was so high. I'm sorry, it went higher. The yield went higher.
So yeah. Peter, what we do is at at the school district meeting, we explain this, and what we have tried over the last several years, both at River Valleys and in both Dover and Wardsboro, previous to that, is to try to keep the increase in the tax rate to as flat as we can. But we also, one of the things that it's very difficult for us is our biggest expense is the secondary student tuition. And we try to project, we'll be trying to project in October, November, how many students are going to be attending in September of 24. September of 23. And it's a very difficult number to get right. And if we do it too low, we wind up with a huge deficit. And if we do it too high, we wind up with the surplus. So when we wind up with the surplus, we do discuss it at the district meeting so people know and they can weigh in on how they want to do it. The other thing is it's a very confusing formula because there's weighted average daily membership, there's taxes, there's yields, there's, how much is what have they added to the education fund this year. So we are going to have, because I promised Mark, in October and November, we're going to have how taxing works for the school. And we're going to have a discussion about that. And I'm also, if you'd like to have a conversation, I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and, kind of go over it, how it works in a little more depth to help you understand it if you want to understand it better.
Yeah, philosophically, I'm just interested in not winding up with a huge reserve over a period of time and having the burden, put back on everyone.
Yeah, and Peter, we have brought that up to the voters, and the voters do want us to keep a reserve because there are years when we're 300 or 400,000 in the hole because there's a whole, 20 new tuition students move in that we didn't plan on, like the first couple years of COVID. And we also make recommendations again, and we say, we'll sometimes take money out of just the general reserve and dedicate some to the building reserve or to the transportation reserve so that we're not having a tax for those items. Go ahead, Mark.
I just looked at our warning for the last annual meeting, and we did vote to transfer $75,000 to offset taxes.
75,000?
Yeah.
I thought we did too, Mark, but I don't have it in front of me, so.
All right, I'll go back and look at that. I really, I thought that what the vote was to move reserves into the capital funds.
We did that.
Instead of offsetting taxes.
We did that also for a total of $90,000, $70,000 to buildings and $20,000 to transportation.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I'll
Peter,
double check
Peter,
that.
thank you for the question. We appreciate it.
My question.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thanks.
To Laurie.
For Laurie. Hi, Laurie.
Hi.
You say though we're gonna have a surplus of 381, and you also mentioned there's still some expenses outstanding. So is that an estimate for the end of the year, or is that currently what we would be moving?
It's still an estimate at this point because it's unaudited. Through the audit process, if they find something that needs to be adjusted, that type of thing. So that's not a in stone number.
Okay, thanks.
Until we get that audit. Final audit, which probably will be in December, but I'm not anticipating any big swings.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. If everybody's good, we can let Laurie shut her camera off and go about her life.
Have a good one, Laurie.
Okay, thank you, Laurie. Now I gotta go back to where we were, folks. We were at Burr Burton Request about partnering for cost of driver's ed, driving school example. So at the end of the last meeting, we had tasked Mr. Antone to find us some more information.
So I communicated to my counterpart, head of school at BBA, just a heads up about the questions the board had. I also contacted the AOE directly so that I could find out the interpretation of the statute that we were looking at. Had a really good conversation with the individual, Tammy Pregant, at the AOE, who is in charge of the driver's education program at the AOE, and she and I talked about how that statute plays out in the situation that was shared with us about Burr Burton. She shared with me that she had a conversation scheduled this Thursday with legal counsel at AOE because she also had received other requests such as mine. So I wrote a letter to the legal department of the AOE, copied Ms. Pregnant about our questions, and I am following up with them Thursday afternoon. So my update right now is I would not suggest that we make any decisions until we hear back from that. I will put it on the October 3rd meeting, and we should have a little bit more clarity to help the board decide what is the next decisions to be made in this process.
Go ahead, Mark.
Since we don't have the minutes from the retreat, could you share with us the answers to the questions that you had gotten for us on this topic that you shared with us at the retreat?
What were the questions?
One was whether there were other expenses that were pulled out like that. I think there were 4 or 5 questions or so.
One was an a la carte question. Do we pay a la carte costs for students that attend school? And my answer was, to my knowledge, we only do that for things that are required under a 504 plan, an EST plan, or a special education IEP plan. That's definitely one. The second one was, are there driver schools in southern Vermont? Yes, there are. I don't remember I apologize, Mark, I don't remember offhand what the other 2 questions were.
And if I could remember, I probably wouldn't have asked you to repeat the answers.
Well, luckily, we will have the minutes at the October 3rd meeting, plus a report from what I hear from the AOE, so it should allow the board to have a fully fleshed out conversation.
Excellent, thank you.
You bet.
Go ahead, Dwight.
Thanks, Bill, for doing that. Can you just kind of explain a little bit more what the question was, and for the people who weren't at the last meeting, in terms
Sure.
of what we're looking for as the board, and what?
So there's a
clarification
statute in Vermont that says that students that attend a public high school or an approved independent high school shall be made available driver's education. What it doesn't say is, what does that mean, shall be made available? Does it mean that you hire a teacher, which is commonly done at schools, and if it takes 3 years on a waiting list for a student who's eligible to finally be able to take that class their senior year, that appears to be made available. Does made available mean that you will provide some sort of private funding for a driving school? Again, these are the questions I asked the AOE. So what the board is trying to wrestle with is they have been asked by an approved independent school, Burr Burton, to partner with Burr Burton to provide half of the funding for a independent private driving education school, because over the course of more than a year, Burr Burton has been unable to fill a driver's education position which was open at the beginning of last school year. That pretty good?
Just one follow-up.
Yeah.
Did you let Burr Burton know that you're looking for legal counsel to kind of get a clarification?
I let Mark know that I was investigating with the AOE what's going on.
I mean, I would just expand on what we're looking for, at least what I'm looking for, which is the obligation on Burr Burton to provide these services for the student, and therefore, Burr Burton, we're paying you tuition for these students, you pay for it.
Or is it on the LEA?
Or is it on the LEA?
The local education authority, which
Yeah.
when you do not operate, when you don't operate a school,
Yeah.
you are still the local
So are
education
we
authority.
obligated to provide that?
Well, that's the question I posed to the AOE,
And we're-
because the
yeah.
statute does not have clear language.
Yeah, and we're not paying it for all the other students, you know, I mean, it's kind of rolled
It's
into.
part of the tuition.
Tuition, right, so.
But
Which it
there are
was
some
prior.
students that have gone to other schools to
Yeah.
like Brattleboro, they couldn't get in, so the parents paid that. So is that, and that's the can of worms we may be opening. So that's what we need to look into.
And I will just say for myself, I'm looking, whatever we do, I'm looking for it to be consistent for all students.
Right.
No, it's a great
we
follow.
don't have the answers. Mark, it's been a few minutes. You remember the other two questions? Because I don't either, and I tried looking.
One was in regards to the salary that they had been paying their driver's ed instructor, which our tuition dollars had been going towards, and since they haven't hired one, they're not paying that. And I think, if I remember it correctly, Bill, you said something along lines of 30,000.
Yes, based on my conversation with the head of school, it was about a $30,000 investment they were making in the driver's ed program when they had it in-house.
We had also asked Tammy to get how many students, because Chad had brought up maybe River Valleys could hire a person to do it for all of our students, and I think that was the other one, Mark. We wanted some clarification, and Tammy actually sent me those numbers. We asked, 10th and 11th grades are usually the grades that you do that in, and how many students were there, because I told Tammy to hold that and not send it to me, because I would lose it, and she could give it to us tonight.
So in your packet is a full accounting of the number of students we have. There are two spreadsheets near the back of your packet.
So, do you remember what they were?
No.
You remember all this good stuff, Bill.
Well, I mean, Burr Burton gave us their count, which was 41.
For the two, but that's,
What was it, Bill?
41.
but that's a total number of students, isn't it?
That's their total number of students, and they're doing the same thing you're doing, Rich. We would estimate approximately 25% of those would qualify in any given year.
Right. Okay. So that was the other question, so that was kind of, well, and I thought we were gonna be able to make a decision
I'm
tonight.
confused.
What?
41.
From them.
Right. So their numbers may have been based on last
Last
year's
year's.
4-year count.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just
Because I'm seeing
communicating.
26
Right.
on this spreadsheet.
But that's just
Okay.
over. There's
Oh,
two-
this is just over. Got it. Oh, I see.
So where do we find total?
Well, because Tammy got it to me, she emailed it to me, I said to bring it tonight because I would lose it. What do you got for your numbers, Tammy?
13.
Sorry.
So are we looking at both public and private schools?
Well, do you know how many are Burr
It's right here.
down?
We have 11 from Wardsboro attending Burr Burton.
So doing
In
the
grades 10 and
doing the
11.
25% is 3 students to
38. Our count's 38, their count was 4. I mean, they're
Yeah.
the same range.
And again, it can change tomorrow. We could have a
Well, we have to
family
look
move
at kids'
out.
birth dates and,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to make some estimates.
So again, I mean, it's not, we can't get an exact number. I mean, we could do a number in time.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're not gonna make a decision tonight anyways, because we wanna see what the
Yeah, I'll
legal
report
says.
back what the AOE said.
And you're comfortable we should have that before the next meeting?
Well, I'm comfortable that they have a planned meeting on Thursday.
Okay. I understand.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody else, because we're buying an extra couple of weeks, I guess, because we couldn't get an answer. Is there anything else anybody needs to know? I see Kate shaking her head no, so let's move on to articles of agreement, discussion and possible action. So I thought I'd sent it out, but again, this is why I tell Tammy not to send me anything. Tennille, go ahead. Tennille?
Sorry, took me a minute to unmute. I was just curious, is this for this school year or for next school year?
Is what for this school year or next school year?
The driver's ed money that you guys are considering and talking about, is it, like I heard Tammy talking about 10th and 11th graders for Wardsboro this year, but is this proposed for upcoming school years or for coverage like for current students?
Well, that's interesting because we didn't budget for it, so I think we're gonna have to have that discussion next week when we see what's happening.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So,
So I guess, Peter, we're back on the driver's ed thing.
yeah. So,
Sorry, that was my just last quick question.
I
Sorry.
got that, cool.
That's okay.
so I want to ask Bill a question. So, and maybe provide some reassurances to parents, maybe not. But we're fairly clear that someone is required to make sure that students have that offered to them.
Based on the statute,
Yes.
yes.
To pay
Yes.
for
It
it.
seems pretty clear. It's who
To pay
is
or just
responsible.
provide?
It's,
To provide.
Made available.
Made available.
Made
Does it mean
available.
pay?
And what does made available mean?
yeah. Okay.
But can I answer Teal's question?
Well, I thought you already did.
Well, no, I think she was asking what BBA is looking for, and I think based on the timing of it, it seems that BBA is asking for this as soon as possible.
Right,
But we haven't
have
budgeted
to
for
make-
it, so
and
we
have
have
to
some
make that
steps to go
decision.
through.
But
Right.
we may be told that the state may say, "Whoa, wait a minute, if
Right.
they're accepting tuition, no, that's part of the tuition, and we can't do that." Go ahead, Mark.
So I have a feeling I'm going to say this more than once tonight. I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV, but I'm pretty sure that made available has nothing to do with the financial aspects of it. So it just has to be made available. Who pays for it isn't specified in the statute. That would be my interpretation of it.
Right, but we did make a request for it to make a request of the legal department at the Department of Ed, so I think we should just wait and get their opinion.
Yeah.
We could spend an hour and everybody
wasn't-
can give their thoughts, but,
I wasn't disagreeing with that. I was commenting on, it was a building off of what Laura
Yeah.
had said.
okay. So, okay, well then, so, going once, going twice, going 3 times on driver's ed. Anybody else? Cool. Articles of agreement. So I will apologize to y'all because I took what Mark sent me and I actually the next day at the office, I typed it up really nice and I kind of opened it up a little bit because there was, I added an option A, which was, option A was we just redistrict, we reconstitute, reorganize the board makeup based on the census. And then I separated them out that, you know, the option A, all vote for all, which is kind of different. I had a hybrid, 3 members from each town elected by the voters of each town. And then I did the partial hybrid, which could be, there can be all sorts of variations of a partial hybrid. We could decide that 1 member from each town voted on by that town and 4 people are voted on, or any combination thereof. And then the last option was the weighted voting where, and again, it's pretty well spelled out in here that one town's voting is weighted at 1.333 and the other one is weighted at 0.668. So I think those are so it's reorganized based on census, which is 1. It's number 2 is all vote for all. Number 3 is a hybrid all in where 3 members from each town are voted by all the voters in both towns. Number 4 is a partial hybrid, and the makeup, if we decide we want to try to maybe go towards a partial hybrid, I would ask that maybe that be where we go, and then once we decide we want to do a partial, then we can argue out how we want to, not argue, discuss how we want to do it. And then number 5 would be weighted voting based on the census. So Laurie, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I would love to just dive right in and see if right off the bat we could just make this choice a little simpler. Like, does anybody have interest in option number 5? Could we just take that out of contention? Because I have none.
I don't have it in front of me. What was option 5?
That's weighted.
Okay.
Weighted.
So let me go through it one more quick time. Number 1, reorganize the board, redo based on the census. Okay, which all we have to do is vote to do it and it's done. 2 is all vote for all. And when I say that, all vote for all is it's 6 at-large seats and both towns vote for all 6 people. Number 3 is 3 members from each town voted by both towns. That's the hybrid. I called it hybrid all in. Number 4 is a partial, is some makeup in between. Some voted on from each town by everybody, and then some open positions can be from either town. And then the 5th one is weighted voting based on the census. So the vote, depending on which town you're from, is how much your vote is weighted.
Right, so it's point.
Okay.
Yeah. So my suggestion is, I would like to, I don't know if you need a motion, but if you need a motion, I'm prepared to give it. I would like to remove number 5 from contention by consensus.
Okay, so does anybody like number 5, the weighted voting, that they would want to not see it go away? Go ahead, Mark.
I think it's an excellent compromise. Keep the board decides that we want to keep it, but allocate the voting based on population, which is what our articles of agreement say. So, if we're going to look at compromises in general, then I would not want to leave that one off the table because I think it's a very viable one.
Okay, so it's not, we don't have consensus on that.
Okay, so
Okay.
now I would like to ask if we can remove that by majority vote.
Well, so here's what we can do. We can have a discussion. We can make a motion on one, somebody can make a motion on either one, any one of the 5, and then we can have a discussion and a vote. If you're gonna vote, if you're gonna have a majority vote to take one off the list, then we're gonna have 4 votes until we have the last man standing.
I'm
or-
really concerned that this conversation, excuse me, may I be
Oh,
recognized?
you're
Yes.
at the floor.
So I'm really concerned that this may, this is going to be difficult to keep this conversation contained. So, or productive. I think there are 100 different things. So I'm going to make a motion that we remove weighted voting as one of the choices that we will consider.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I need to think about this for a second.
Can I sneak a quick question? I can't figure out how to put my hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Have we had conflict between the 2 towns in terms of the voting?
No, the reason we're doing this is the Articles of Agreement state that when the census is completed, we have to look at our numbers. And when we did the original Articles of Agreement, the 2 populations of the towns were a lot closer. At the last census, Dover grew quite a bit. And so if you look at the numbers based on the Articles of Agreement, we should reorganize and have 4 members from Dover and 2 from Wardsboro. We had a discussion about it last winter when it was brought to our attention, and we checked with an attorney, and we were given some options we could do to keep it as a 6-member board with 3 from each town or something similar to that, or we were given some options, so that's what we're discussing tonight. So we have a motion on the floor by Laura, and I'm going to allow the motion unless anybody on the board objects to it. Does anybody object to it? Okay, seeing no objections, then we will have discussion. Laurie, you can go first, and Chad second, and then the rest of the board.
I think this is complicated. I think we have simpler solutions in front of us. I think this will be difficult for all voters to follow us with and just understand that, so it would work with, Dover would have 3, Wardsboro would have 3, and Dover's representatives' votes would count more than Wardsboro's, and we would constantly be having to explain to voters why, even though 3, why votes were not coming out the way that that seemed predictable. Because we have literally so many combinations of other alternatives that could work, I feel like let's just take the most complicated one off the table.
Chad?
Thank you. I would point out that the composition of the school board, forming districts, representation. So it's talking about the representation, not the structure of the vote. So Mark, I appreciate your comment just before Laura's motion, but as you mentioned, it would weight it proportionality. That's not what the article is looking for as far as the voting structure. So I think in that regard, because it's changing the weight of vote and not addressing the representation, that it should be taken off the docket.
Okay, I just want to correct one thing. This was a suggestion by the attorney when we asked him, what else can we do? So, I mean, this is a viable option.
Yes, it is.
It is an option that can happen. Does it do what you want? Does it do what the will of the board wants to do is up for discussion. But it is doable. And I just want to make sure everybody understands that. You can do this, and it's would be legal.
Right, I'm not questioning the legality of it. However,
That's
I do see it becoming problematic because let's just say that this became the ultimate factor of the board. We said, yes, this is the one. Then we do open ourselves up because it can be challenged based on the wording.
No, we asked him and he cannot be challenged. I mean, everything can be challenged, but he was comfortable that this would stand up to any challenges.
Okay. but I would also say we've seen in that, I appreciate the word of council, and that's very helpful in putting these together. But I think for our voters that there is potential, because that potential always exists no matter what choice is made. And so identifying the verbiage, and that is why I am joining Laura in saying this option should be disregarded in full.
Peter, I'm gonna let the rest of the board talk before I get to you. This is for the board's vote. Go ahead, Dwight, do you have anything, or?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would take this up. I agree with because I think it's confusing, and it also doesn't, for me, it's more so it doesn't go back to the real spirit of what we created in the beginning, which was equal representation from both towns. So that for me is the reason I'm not in favor of it.
Matt, I'm sorry. Mark or Kate? Go ahead, Mark, and then Kate, if you want to say.
So I just want to remind you that what we created is what's in our Articles of Agreement. I am reluctant to take a solution off the table, which is not only one that was an option given to us by the lawyer, one that I believe is written in statute, and one that would preserve 3-3 board, which is what a lot of people are concerned about. I think we're putting the cart before the horse here, and taking a viable option off the table.
Thank you, Mark. Kate?
I can see why we think it's an important option, and it's definitely a great option. However, I feel that the simplicity of being able to join a school board meeting as any community member and watching it, I think this adds a layer of complexity that doesn't make it very accessible for a lot of people, and I would like to see us in a more simplistic model.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Laura.
Just want to be very clear about my own sense here, which is that options 1 through 5, I believe, are all representative of one person, one vote, and all have been vetted. And I believe any of them meet the goals that we're required to. My request to take that off is just for simplicity. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else from the board? Go ahead, Mark.
Well, just for the record, I don't think all options meet the one person, one vote requirement. I understand the legality of it. The practicality of it, though, is very different, especially in a world where representation is being taken away from people all throughout this country. Gerrymandering is being done, which is in essence what we're doing.
No.
We're considering making a change because people didn't like the results of the census.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Peter Barris, what do you have for us?
Thank you. Just a reminder that at the time, there was considerable controversy about the census itself. I'll say no more than that.
Okay, Peter McDonald, last shot.
I'm going to go a little different route. I trust all of you to have the best interest of the children at heart. And I would hate to imagine that someone from Wardsboro would think that their children are less important. So I think keeping it one vote per board member is the way to go. So I agree with Laura. It's complicated, and I think it takes away from the real impetus of this board, which is to look after the children.
Thank you, sir. Peter, you just forgetting to put your hand down again, sir?
Oh yeah, click this, click that, click that, click that. Okay.
Thank you, buddy. Okay, so Tennille, go ahead, and then we're going to vote.
Hi, sorry, I know I feel like I asked this question at the last meeting too, but I don't know, I guess I'm just confused. I appreciate that this is a conversation that you guys are having, and maybe this is the next level after you guys figure out this piece. But even, I mean, I went to a lot of those meetings when you guys were first merging and we were first talking about like the different sizes of the towns. And I appreciate what everybody has said, because I think there's always been sort of this fear in Wardsboro is going to try to steamroll 100 people. I mean, it's not many, but like you did before too. I mean, there was this agreement that it would be 3 and 3 and everything would be equal. And so just as a community member, as a parent, like I feel, I don't know if other people feel confused too, but you know, Dover's always had a bigger population than Wardsboro, but I really appreciated when you guys first came together that you were 3 people from each town, regardless of how, and we're that sense of quality because it's hard not to, and this feels like a big deal. And I trust that you guys want what's best for the kids, but I also want to make sure the big voices in the little town get heard.
Thank you. Tennille, you cut out a little bit, but my understanding is you're supporting the motion, I guess. I'm not sure how to sum it up.
I am. No, I am supporting the motion, and I'm also,
Oh, she's coming great.
I think I'm feeling some concern about this whole situation and making sure that it stays 3 and 3. And I know I don't have control over that, but I'm voicing that I hope that that's the way that you guys go.
Okay, thank you, Tennille. You were really breaking up bad, and at the end you were really good. So keep on that one leg and holding your left hand over your head so the antenna works better.
It's literally what I was doing. Thank you.
Okay, so if there's no further discussion, go ahead, Mark.
I just want to remind everybody, in response to what Tennille just said, that you, the voters, do have the final say. We, as a board, are choosing a option to put forward to the voters, and the voters will vote on it, unless we stick with what's already in the Articles of Agreement.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. That's a really good point. What we're looking at is we're looking to, just so everybody understands, is we're looking to bring an option, possibly bring an option to the board, to the voters at a meeting sometime before the school district meeting to change the Articles of Agreement, and that does have to be voted on and be a majority from all the voters. So I'd like to just move forward with a vote. So all those in favor signify so by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please signify so by saying nay.
Nay.
Okay, so it's not a unanimous vote, so we have to do a roll call vote because we're not all here. So I am going to start with Laura.
Aye.
And Peter, we need to record who voted how, okay? Not just how many.
As always.
Thank you. Chad, I'm going to go to you next.
Aye.
Dwight.
Aye.
Mark.
Nay.
Kate.
Aye.
So I count 4 ayes and 1 nay. So the motion carries. So we will take number 5 off the plate. So now we have 4 options. Reorganize the board as in the current Articles of Agreement. Change to an all vote for all. Have 6 at-large seats. And candidates can be from either town. Hang on a second, Laura. Candidates can be from either town, and all the voters in both towns vote. It's cumulative. Number 3 is a hybrid all-in. The 3 members from each town, but voters in both towns get to vote on those 3 members. And number 4 is some sort of partial hybrid where a couple members maybe from each town and some at-large members, or any kind of combination thereof. Would you like to talk again, Laura?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
So I would like to say that I like the simplicity. I think it's important in this young district's life to be very thoughtful here. And I also believe it's important that we respect one person, one vote. And I don't think we really have an option there, which means that when you have a lot more people in one town, we have to make sure that all of those people's votes count equally to one person in that town, one person in a smaller town. I think that the lawyer has provided us with an absolutely perfect solution to this, which meets one person, one vote, and also meets most of the sentiment that I have heard, which is a desire to keep things moving. It will put a little more pressure on our town clerks, and that is maintaining the 3-3, but having people in each town vote for all 6. So in other words, in our district, we want 3 representatives to be nominated by Dover. We want 3 representatives to be nominated by Wardsboro, but everyone in Wardsboro will vote for all of the candidates, and everyone in Dover will vote for all of the candidates. So what that means is, let's say that, just to kind of walk this all through, that in the next election, if the voters were to approve this, and I decided to run again, and someone decided to run against me, and Richard decided to run again, and someone decided to run against Richard, and Mark decided to run again, and someone ran against him, and same for all of my Wardsboro colleagues. And so we have 12 candidates, right? So each town has brought them forward. We would vote, and in Dover, or not in Dover, and we would look at who are the top 3 Dover board members, who got the top 3 votes, right? So maybe it's Richard and Mark, and somebody got more votes than me, so then you have 3. And then we look in Wardsboro, and who were the top 3 candidates out of the 6, and those would be the people that came forward. So it would be Dover and Wardsboro choosing Wardsboro's representatives. It would be Dover and Wardsboro choosing Dover's representatives. That meets one person, one vote. It allows us to keep 3 in each town. It does create a little more work for our town clerks. But for me, I think that is the most simple solution going. And I would like to make a motion that we recommend to the voters that we switch to a hybrid all-in model with 3 members from each town elected by the voters of both towns.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something before we have a second. So once we get somewhere, well, I think you said something wrong. Go ahead. Does anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, so I have a motion by Laura and a second.
Did we have the language again of this motion?
Yes, Laura would like to move that we go for the hybrid all-in.
We recommend to the voters.
Recommend to the voters that we have a hybrid all-in where voters from both towns vote for candidates from an individual town. I don't think you'll have 6 people running every year.
I don't
It'll
either.
be the same sort of setup. It's only one. Well, the way you were kind of explaining it
Well,
is that
I'm just explaining
the
what
top
was-
3
yeah.
vote getters.
Well, if we did have competition,
It would
that's
just be
how
the
it would
top
work.
vote getter.
Right.
Yes, it would be the top 3 vote getters.
No.
No,
It's-
because
it's-
he's saying because we are on an
Every
3-year rotation.
We have a 3-year term, so.
Got it. So we wouldn't all be up for election at the
Right,
same time,
right.
excuse me.
Because
Yeah.
the other thing we don't want to have is have the entire board change over in every year.
Yeah.
That would be a little difficult.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
Laura, Dwight, and then whoever else.
No, I
Pretty much said what you're all set.
a very important clarification that you provided, which is, and I put something out there really crazy. So yes, we don't all run every year at the same time. So next year, I don't even know who's up next year, but let's say it's Rich
I think
and,
it's Mark.
okay, say it's Mark and Kate. Mark and Kate, and if each of them have someone that runs against them, the voters in Dover will vote to elect one representative from Dover and one from Wardsboro, and the voters in Wardsboro will vote to elect one representative from Dover and one from Wardsboro, and then that would move forward. And again, I think that is simple, easy to understand, it's fair. We have 2-member districts in the House, so it's, you know, it's something that is understood.
So I think the clearest way to put it is that
Yeah.
voters from both towns
Yep.
get to vote for candidates, but the positions will be one from Dover
Yes.
and one from Wardsboro,
Yep.
but everybody, all the voters vote for the 2 different places. They just don't give one vote, they get 2 votes.
That's right.
So I
Okay.
would imagine that this kind of seeing how this might end up on a ballot would be, please place your vote for the school board director from Dover.
Yes.
And there are, as Laura was
Yep.
saying, there might be 3 choices
Yep.
because there are 3 candidates interested in running.
Yep.
And then the next line item will be, place your vote for the school board director from Wardsboro.
Yep.
Here are the people that are running.
And there
Yep.
might be 7 of them.
And there might be 7.
Yeah. Wouldn't that
It'd
be
great to have.
amazing? That'd be
you know,
amazing.
absolutely.
Okay.
Like that.
So hopefully it's as clear as mud for everybody. Dwight, you get second.
Thanks. Yeah, you said it perfectly, Laura. I think, I really do agree. I think it's the best compromise that we can have because it honors kind of the will of the people, especially particularly from Wardsboro, that they have equal representation. However, it expands the electorate so everyone gets to vote. And I think that is another way of bringing us forward, or bringing us together, I should say. And I think that's great. I don't know the simplicity of it. I think for Wardsboro, I think it will actually make it a little easier because we voted from a town meeting where we had to come out of the town meeting during a meeting and go into a school meeting, and it was quite confusing. I love the idea of being able to vote for everyone together at an annual meeting of the school board. So I think that would kind of give a reason to get to come together as well. So I think it also expands the number of voters. So it kind of also, you know, addresses the idea of more people in Dover because they will have a little bit more of a say in the candidates. So I think that's a good thing too. But all in all, I think it's a great solution. So I'm certainly in favor.
Go ahead, Mark. Just trying to make
So I've got a lot to say. Some of which you've heard before, some of which you may not have. If the decision is going to be to vote at the annual meeting, you're actually greatly reducing the participation in Dover because we vote by Australian ballot at this point. So that's one problem. 2, so this should not be a Wardsboro versus Dover discussion. We should be having the same discussion if the population had changed in the other direction. Next, I want to remind everybody of the actual numbers. In 2010, the Dover population was 1,124. The Wardsboro population was 900. That was a difference of 224 people. In 2020, the Dover population was 1,798, and the Wardsboro population was 869. That is a difference of 929. That is a huge change in difference. Third, the voters have already spoken. The voters 5 years ago voted to approve our Articles of Agreement. In fact, they were approved in Dover twice because we had to re-vote it. Fourth, and I may lose my count, so I apologize. What we are doing, and I've said this before, is saying we don't like the results, so we're going to change the rules in the middle of the game. It may be legal, it may stand up to constitutional muster. It's still wrong. Fifth, what we are doing is what's being done all across the country with gerrymandering and deciding that because we don't like the results of a vote, in which in this case the census, we are going to change things to our liking. And I think that is just completely wrong. 6, this is not a compromise. Maintaining the 3-3 is status quo. But that can't be called a compromise. A compromise would be one of the many other options that we have, where we go something like 3-2 with one at large that would get voted on between both towns. Excuse me. Yeah, I'll leave it there. I think this is an absolutely huge mistake, and we are going against the democratic principles of small town governance.
All set, Mark?
For now.
Okay, thank you. Kate, go ahead.
I just want to say that I think this model actually does show a really good spirit of compromise. It shows that we are willing to look at, the articles that we had adopted 5 years ago, realizing the shortcomings. It has been said that it was, that wasn't the spirit which was intended for the creation. And the spirit is to, make sure that both towns have equal say. And I think this also shows that we're all willing to be accountable to both towns and to the students that we serve in both towns. So I definitely am supporting this.
Thank you, Kate. I'm going to go to Chad. I'm sorry, Chad. And then Laurie had her hand up for round 2.
Okay. My first point would be to Mark's that the voters spoke. We don't really know that. We see a very large influx of people based on the 2020 census. We do not know, we cannot pin down precisely when those new voters came into town, number one. And number two is they're not all voters. I think a lot of that population is also minors who do not have the right to vote yet.
No. Mark, are you talking total census, including the kids, or just voters?
No, what I read is total census. It does not include second homeowners. They are citizens. They are residents.
So it could be kids
of these towns.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
Now, as far as gerrymandering, if we were to really try to gerrymander this, we would redraw the school district lines to delineate what is Dover and what is Wardsboro in an effort to keep the population split evenly so that no change had to be made. So I understand what you're leaning on gerrymandering. However, I think it's an incorrect application of that particular act. As far as the compromise goes, this I do believe, and I'll kind of piggyback on Kate a little bit, this really does give a compromise because now the slate of electorates, of possible elected board members, is now being voted on and voiced upon by both towns. So without question, as we talk about the difference in population, it's very possible that we had 2 viable candidates, an experienced board member, and a newcomer. And the entirety of Wardsboro could have voted for the experienced returning incumbent. The entirety of Dover could say, you know what, nope, we like the change and we want to vote in break person X because we feel that they have the potential to perhaps move forward a Dover agenda. And I say that cautiously because I don't feel in my brief experience and tenure here with the board that there is an agenda of those that sleep in Dover versus those that sleep in Wardsboro. I'm very, very happy to be a part of this combined makeup. And that's why I think this will go a long way to maintaining a compromised situation while representing for the best interests of the kids moving forward.
Just remember too, we're not going after his points. We're making our own points. It's not a debate between
it's not,
people.
But there are
no. I just want to make sure we're staying above board. Go ahead, Laurie.
I do want to say that with the population shift, I think it is important in order to maintain one person, one vote. Dover has more voters, so Dover therefore should have more say. And in this model, I think Chad has just explained it. If Wardsboro puts up two candidates, and it is the one that will be more preferential to Dover. If there's a conflict between those two, that is probably more likely to win unless you put together a coalition between Wardsboro and Dover. So I do think we've preserved voice for an increased Dover population, but also maintains representation from both towns. And that's it. I have nothing else to say. Let's vote.
I just also, Mark, the other thing, just as not to go after you, but I think if we decide to make a change, then we also have a little research to do, and we have to discuss, like when we will vote and how we will vote. But again, that stuff can be changed, I think, by the board, but.
The motion is to make a recommendation.
Right, the motion is to make a recommendation, and we'll have to do some more homework to get all the specifics.
So
I'm not sure what you were correcting that I said.
Well, I don't know if the vote would be at the annual meeting, or if there would be a ballot vote, or how it would be voted, if it's a show of hands.
I was responding to what Dwight had said in regards to participation at the annual meeting, voting for the representatives going forward.
Right.
Not for the vote on this.
Right. I'm talking going forward. I'm not sure how we would be voting. I think that's also part of a discussion too, because we'd have to make sure it works for the town clerks, and that they can, in the school district clerk. So there is some other specifics we have to look into.
One quick.
Hang on a second. Mark, I don't did you have your hand up, or are you all set? Or were you
right now I'm all set.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dwight.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say we would certainly. I want to be voting at the annual meeting, just in those in attendance. Whatever process we go forward with is certainly fine with me. But I would think we would, even if it's Australian ballot, it would be an opportunity for candidates to speak, and for some people at that meeting to vote while they're there. I believe they may have
On Australian ballot, you can't speak.
You can't speak. Okay.
No, because you can't influence. You can't speak while people are coming in to vote.
I got you. Okay.
Laurie, you've had two. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I think, and just to kind of, thinking about the voting, because I think that is important. And, I definitely have noticed both at the Wardsboro Town meeting, at our annual school board meeting, that I, for one, would love to see more and more people turn out to voice their opinion through their vote in support of our school budget, in support of our school directors. And that once we decide on how, if it does fit into an opportunity to vote on our election days, that would be wonderful. So that it was on the ballot, just like our justice of the peace, just like our select board, and so on. It would be a pretty fantastic opportunity, and I think it would broaden our reach of our community's voters.
Yeah, but remember, Dover's always voted like that, so it's always been broader in Dover than it has in Wardsboro, where you pick from the floor. But again, we were trying to respect everybody's, and the first vote had to be by ballot. So the original board, of which Dwight's the only one left, Dwight was voted on by ballot.
I think the signatures and everything.
Yeah. Laura?
Nope. I'm good.
Okay, so everybody's had at least one. Some people have had a couple. I will call the question. So the vote is to go for the hybrid all-in, 3 members from each town elected by voters of both towns. All those in favor of the motion, please signify so by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please signify so by saying nay.
Nay.
Okay, I do not believe it's a unanimous vote. So Peter, we're going to do a roll call vote again. I'm going to go backwards from last time. I think Kate, you went last, so I'll let you go first.
Aye.
Mark? Oh, Mark, you froze.
Did you hear me?
No, you froze, sorry.
Oh, no, I said, unlike the process we're voting on, this is a democratic process, and I'm voting nay.
No, I understand. I think Dwight, I had you third.
Aye.
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 Okay, I count 4 ayes and 1 nay, so the motion carries. So, Bill, would you do us a favor?
Yep.
And for the next meeting, ask the attorney. I think there's a few questions we need, and one of them is, do we have to re-elect everybody since we're changing, or would it just be those that are up? And Kate, for when we set the agenda, let's try to get Andy here as our school district clerk. to see when he thinks we could do this vote.
Great, sounds good.
And if anybody has any questions about anything that they can think of beforehand, please send them to Bill and myself so that we can get answers at the next meeting, so we can plan on moving this forward. So I believe that covers our old business under a new business.
Rich?
Yep,
I have a motion I'd like to make.
go ahead.
I move that moving forward, all River Valley's representatives are elected via Australian ballot, with ballots mailed out to all registered voters.
Okay, Peter, did you get that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do I have a second to Mark's motion that moving forward, all River Valley board members are elected by Australian ballot, and that ballots are mailed out to all voters?
We need a second now discussion, correct?
Yeah, or if there's no second, it just dies and we...
I'll second it.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. So go ahead, Mark.
So we've already chosen to recommend taking representation away from Dover. We should not also take away Dover's ability to vote via Australian ballot. 1. 2, we should be expanding the number of people that do vote and making it as easy as possible. The cost for mailing ballots, if I remember correctly, was somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,500, which is a pittance to get all of our voters involved, or at least give them the opportunity to be involved.
Are you all set, Mark?
I am, yes.
Okay, no.
I would like to concur with Mark in regards to being able to access as many of our voters as possible. And that is why I was glad to second this motion and have it come up for discussion.
I'm sorry, folks.
You okay?
Yeah. Chad. Laura, I'm sorry, you were next.
Yeah. So I am, I would prefer to vote on these two things separately, and I would also prefer to hear back from our attorney before we vote on these two things. But I would like to ask a question, which is the motion that was made to recommend to the voters this switch, or is it just to switch?
I am not sure.
Okay.
The motion was to switch.
Okay. And I think
Okay.
we would need to recommend to the voters.
No, I think that we are allowed to do that. Last time we went through this, because of the Articles of Agreement required us to have a vote by ballot, Australian ballot,
Yeah.
and we did change it. We found out we could make that change.
Yeah.
So we changed it for Wardsboro because Wardsboro wanted to go back to voting from the floor. So I believe it's a motion that we can make, but I'm just going to leave it at that. Yep.
I just want to point out that because all of the candidates would be at large, we are required, both towns are required to vote with the same method.
Right,
So
Mark,
we can't.
but
no,
Mark,
I'm just,
no, just hang on a second. I don't think the candidates are at large.
They're not.
It's the voters are at large.
That's right. That's right.
It's all the voters. The candidates are from a specific town.
That's right.
okay, I stand corrected.
Thank you.
It's still, both towns have to vote the same way.
That would make sense, Mark, but hang on a second. Sorry. Are you all set?
I'm all set.
My only comment on this is I think, Mark, it's a good discussion point. I think I would rather see it be a question to the attorney on the logistics and also to involve others. So, and I don't know I know we can vote on how to do how to vote either Australian ballot or but I don't know if we can vote in perpetuity to always mail ballots, and I would just want to check that first.
We can.
I've never,
Other boards have done it.
well, that doesn't mean other boards are right either. So I would just want to get a legal opinion on that. But again, you guys outvote me, so I'm only one.
Question for you. Does the town of Dover do any mailed ballots for town meetings or for directly?
They will if you request it.
If you request it.
So if you request an absentee ballot, but I'm not aware of Dover ever mailing out ballots to everybody just blanketly.
Yeah, this is a great discussion to have with Andy and see, where we can move forward. Obviously, we all want to, hopefully you want the same thing, to have as much inclusion and people voting as possible, so we can move that discussion once we have more information.
And we have, as a board, had a discussion. Mark, are you frozen or are you just not moving?
No, sorry, I was reading something on another screen.
Okay, sorry. So I just didn't want to get too far ahead if you were frozen. I know we, at one time, there was a motion made to mail ballots out for a meeting, to have a ballot vote on the budget. I think we did a few years ago.
That was the first budget vote we had during COVID.
Okay, I kind of remembered that. So anyways, I'm all done. I just wanted, I'm not trying to influence you one way or the other. I'm just trying to say that I'm not really sure. So we have a motion. Mark, that was your motion. Are you all set? Do you want to say anything else towards it?
Yeah, I don't see any reason that we should wait. This would be telling the voters how we feel, that we've got respect for them, and it can always be undone by another vote.
Okay, anybody else from the board? You all set? Oh, he's looking at you. He kind of put his hand up and then he's not sure.
Yeah, well, again, I concur with Mark, again, I'll restate, for the opportunity to get the ballots in front of as many of our constituents as possible. Doing it separately from another election may not be in the best interest of our budget. Again, as Mark said, it is a relatively small amount of money to make sure we get an awful lot of involvement, and I don't foresee myself, if it came to about $2,500, if that number is right, saying no, we shouldn't spend that. However, if we can make it less by having it included with another election element within our towns, that would be fantastic. And that's, again, I think, as Dwight said, having that conversation with our town clerks would be beneficial prior to issuing a vote on this specifically.
Okay, is the board all set to vote? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
So the motion doesn't include how the meeting is run, dates, or anything along those lines. So there'd be nothing to preclude us from combining it with another election. Although I believe it's only the general election where, and the primary, where ballots get sent out to everybody. You also have one member of the public with their hand up.
Yeah, I saw that and I was about to call him, but you moved, so I jumped on you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Peter.
So if the number is 2,500, is that something the school board pays for, or does that go back to the towns to pay for that?
No, Peter, we're going to send the bill directly to you and let you pay it for us.
I will give you my P.O. box.
Okay. No, it would be the school district. It would be school district expense.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. So if you're all ready to vote, all those in favor, please signify so by saying, Tennille, go ahead.
You're still muted, Tennille.
Sorry, I was trying to find a spot that had better service. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just confused as to why we would spend even $2,500 to send out a vote. Like, I could understand if it moved to a full Australian ballot, like that would make sense, but I guess I was leading on, I'm not sure who even asked the question, maybe it was Dwight, like, do we send, ballots to everybody for anything else? I think I totally respect making it universal, and that, we've tried to honor the two different towns doing it two different ways, but sending it to every single person seems like I think saying, hey, the polls are open all day and you have an opportunity to come vote, people that are going to vote are going to get there to vote, and if they can't, they're going to ask for that ballot versus spending even $2,500 to send it to every single person when that could go to, I mean, that's 4 driver's ed kids.
Okay, thank you, Tennille. So, all those in favor, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, those opposed, please signify so by saying nay.
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 Okay. It, again, does not appear to be a unanimous vote. Peter, are you ready for the
Ready to
roll
go.
call? Okay, I'm going to do something different this time. Chad, you go first.
Nay.
Okay, let's go to Kate.
Nay.
Let's go to Mark.
Will never stop amazing me that people don't want to spend a tiny bit of money to get ballots in front of everybody.
So Mark, that's
Yes.
a comment, it's not a vote, and maybe that's not why they're voting nay. So Mark, you're a yay?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Laura.
No.
No, let's go to Dwight.
No.
Okay, so I count 4 no's and 1 yes. Peter, is that what you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the motion doesn't carry. New business, principals, yes.
Sorry. On that issue, I would be happy to ask when the superintendent is reaching out about our motion to change how we elect people, to get more information about this.
Yeah, well, I think we should have the attorney
Yeah.
do that.
What is it you want the attorney to answer?
We
Voting,
need the attorney.
what the challenges are in a switch, one way or the other, so that we have universal voting, including interim, how we do that in an interim fashion. I don't know if there are any questions other than financial.
Again, I think before we went on this motion, if anybody has any questions or any thoughts or anything they want answered, please send them to me by the end of the week. We will get them to the superintendent.
Got it.
And ask the attorney. So,
Thank you.
okay.
All set.
Matt, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I put Bill on first? Because
I don't know.
you have to stay with us anyways. Okay, so Bill,
Good man,
is
brother.
there, besides what you sent out in the superintendent report, do you have any additional superintendent report stuff?
Just 2 quick reminders. One, our superintendent search is ongoing. We've met with 2 out of our 5 stakeholder groups. We're meeting with a stakeholder group tomorrow. We're meeting with a stakeholder group on the 22nd, and we're meeting with our final stakeholder group on Monday, the 26th. That is all a lead up to the WCSU board doing an interview session with candidate or candidates on September 28th. So just a reminder, all voting members, we need you there. If you're a non-voting member, you're more than welcome to attend. It is in person at Leland and Gray, 6 o'clock. By order of the officers, sandwiches and snacks will be provided.
Hey, Mark, are you good on that date? Can you make that?
You're asking me?
Yes,
That's the 29th, right?
28th. It's a Wednesday.
28th. Yes.
Okay.
And that reminds me, I've got another announcement to add at the end of the meeting.
You hang on.
Is that prior to
The 28th,
yeah.
if one of you can't make it, please, we need to know by the next, no, doesn't matter. We can't do anything tonight because it would be, we don't have another meeting, so.
Is that the standard WCSU meeting too that night, right?
What?
There's a regular meeting after
No,
that.
we usually do the retreat, and we took it away, and we're gonna have a retreat at the end of October.
That's my
to be
other.
announced.
That's my other thing.
okay.
Is October 26th. Save the date.
Okay, so I'll change.
That will be our WCSU retreat.
For everybody, all board
All
members.
board members. Location to be determined. We are working on with a couple different places in our catchment area of the WCSU, and I will announce that once those plans have been solidified.
26th
Of
of
October.
October.
Of October.
Right.
The final Wednesday of the month.
And we also have a meeting this Wednesday of the WCSU at the request of our 2 VSBA reps, 6 o'clock?
7 o'clock?
7 o'clock, to discuss the
Resolutions?
And Mark and Dan from Marlboro are representatives for that. And we should also add on that agenda to sign the VHI stuff and the, those 2 proxies we have to give out.
VI and
Visbit.
And vote for a voting member for our SU.
Right, that's
the proxy vote, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we have that, and so we'll get those 3 done.
I don't know if that's a proxy vote, like the Beehive one.
It's
I'm
no,
not sure.
we give it to somebody. We have to, usually we have to fill it out with a name, right?
Yeah, I gave you the.
Yeah, I have them at the office. Okay, I know the superintendent did a written superintendent cabinet report. Go ahead, Mark.
I just, wearing a different hat for a moment, I want to thank Bill for sending out the information about VEMSA's, Vermont EMS Academy's free CPR and Stop the Bleed class that we held on September 10th. There were about half of the attendees were from the WCSU. So I want to thank you very much for that. And we have a request from the River Valley's nurse for another class because a number of River Valley's educators were unable to make it. So we're going to be working on that for to bring a class to the whole SU, not just River Valley's.
Thank you, Mark. That's awesome.
So the superintendent's cabinet report, was there anything in there that anybody wants to clarification from Bill? Okay. If not, if nobody has any problems, I think the rest of this we can pretty much handle without Bill. Can I excuse Mr. Antone? It's Monday night and it's football season.
Yes, but I'm making no claims to not have additional problems.
Okay, well, if you have additional problems, Laura, we can reach out to Bill. Okay, so Matt and Tammy, I'm going to let you go first, Tammy, because you've been sitting there so patiently in your own library all by yourself.
Why, thank you very much. It is quite quiet here when the students aren't here in my office. Well, we also wrote I think it was like a 2-page principals report. So I guess I would first ask if there are any questions on the written report. And then I can just give a brief update at Wardsboro and how the beginning of the year is going.
I think that would be lovely.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So it's pretty early on in the year. I think we've only had maybe 14 school days. We're in week 4. Last week was our first full 5-day week of school. I would say we are off to a relatively smooth start. The beginning of the year is a lot about students learning routines in their new classrooms, getting to know their classmates and their teachers. We have many new staff members this year, which some of you were part of hiring. But they are all getting up to speed, and I am quite impressed with their levels of enthusiasm, and I'm excited about what the year in the future is going to bring, based on what I've seen so far. We are now fully staffed, I believe, with the exception of an instrumental music teacher, but we are going to be working with our current general music teacher to adjust her schedule to be able to offer that service to students in grades 4 through 6, and I included that in the principal's report. And students are beginning to take fall assessments, and that will allow us to enact our MTSS program. Wardsboro has taken on the after-school program for the first time this year without the grant from through the WCSU. And it has, been a lot of coordination, setting the program up, and added some new responsibilities to the administration. But I am excited to get the program up and running. Its first day was today, and I think it's a much needed service for families. So that's my little update, I guess.
Thank you very much, Tammy.
You're welcome.
Matthew?
Well, again, all the things in the report, check that out, see if you have any questions. It's been a great start at Dover. We have a couple of new staff members this year that are getting up to speed, including 2 new IB coordinators, which is a big switch. So they had their first meeting today with the staff, which went really well, starting to plan for priorities for this year and the coming years. Other than that, just trying to get routines down and kids used to, being back in school after the summer. We had great reports from the summer program. We served 35 students in River Valleys this summer, 12 students in the summer school program, and the rest in the regular summer.
How many in summer school?
12 students.
What's that compared to other years?
I think the summer school enrollment is a little less, but the overall program is a little more. So it's hard to tell what specifics are driving that. And then the last thing is the Dover school population is up about 12% over last year.
In the elementary building or all told?
Just the elementary building. And there's no particular reason for that. I think it's just part of that flow that we see. So.
Peace.
Peace.
Or saying peace to you. Go ahead.
Any particular, or is it kind of even, or any pressure? In any of our classes?
The
Great.
class sizes are still
Nice.
Are still good. There's
Well done.
Yeah.
Incoming folks. Nice, nicely done.
So, yeah.
Kate and Mark, are you guys all set with the principals?
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
You guys, Dwight?
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
so I think we're good on principals report. Transportation committee update, Mark.
Before I forget, Transportation Committee is going to be meeting again this Thursday at 9 a.m. via Zoom, and that will be warned that it has already been posted. So we met on September 6th to discuss 3 main topics. The first one was the new bus for River Valleys. I want to thank Dave, Helen, and Greg for going through the 100-page bid document with a fine-tooth comb. The recommendation that the committee is bringing to the board is to go with a international bus from Reed Truck Services for $106,655. It has an ETA delivery in May of 2023. It was the least, there were a total of 6 bids. It was the least expensive of the bids for the international, with a increased engine size and I believe an increased differential to handle the hills in bad weather. So that is our recommendation, and Rich, it would now be an appropriate time for me to make a motion.
Sure, if you'd like to, Mr. Schaubert.
I will move that the board approve the purchase of a international bus from Reed Truck Services for $106,655. For the record, it was bid number 2.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second it.
I'll second.
Okay,
Please give me the number again.
hang on, Peter. Dwight seconded the motion. Mark, 106,
655.
655, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Right, Dwight? Mark, anything else from you?
Just a couple quick things. It's the same manufacturer that our current buses are. It is from a different company, because the company that our 2 buses were purchased from did not choose to bid. Yeah, that was it. And I want to thank Dwight for his participation on the committee also. So thank you.
So he made the second, he seconded, and he's the next one that gets to speak now,
All
Mark.
right, thank you, Mark. Yeah, I think one other thing they mentioned, though, the bus wouldn't be available till April, is that right? Somewhere around there?
May of 23.
Yeah, so we won't get it for the school year, so they won't be driving a bus till next year.
Well, they'll get it at the end of May.
Yeah,
We'll have June.
maybe for a month, yeah.
We have a lot of snow, they may drive it into July.
That's right, break it in.
You hold your tongue.
Yeah. I mean, I had a comment, but I kind of wanted to wait till after the vote, 'cause it does not Nothing to do with this specifically. That's okay.
Okay. Laura, you had your hand up.
Is this 100% grant funded?
No, it's no
0%
percent
grant
grant
Okay,
funded.
and so then here's my question. Does the amount not have to be warned before we vote on it?
No.
We don't have to warn the amount?
It was part of the capital budget.
Oh, okay, great.
And
you.
it's warned that, must purchase, discussion, possible action.
Okay, no, it was just, I just was wondering if we had to have the amount, and
We do
thank you
have the
everybody
amount.
for,
It's in the motion.
yep, thank you everybody for the work to get
Okay.
this
Great.
brought forward.
Yes, Mark?
Just want a small thing. Dave and Matt, I don't know if Dave got your numbers yet. Dave was going to look into the trade-in value for our current bus. But according to Todd Lawley, owner of West River Transportation, we are probably looking at very little value for a 10-year-old with 100,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
But we don't have that number, but
Yeah,
we will have it for you.
We usually get $2,000 to $5,000 is when we put them out to bid. You know, we put them up for, submit your best price. Peter and Tennille, you need to hold on. We're going to do the board. Go ahead, Kate.
No comments, except for thank you for the work on this. I appreciate it. Like, nice job, you guys.
Do you have any?
Strike it if it's not appropriate. But thinking about the bus trade-in value, might we be well suited to look for a private buyer, particularly those who might want to convert that? I mean, this is their own bid, but that's become a big trend of converting buses into tiny homes. Is that something that's worth looking into?
So, Mark, you didn't include a trade-in in your RFP, did you?
I didn't write the RFP, but no, a trade-in was not included.
Okay.
And all I can speak to is the sale value, not for conversions, but for use as a school bus, would be just as low as a trade-in value, because at 10 years, 100,000 miles, operators are not going to be taking it on to run it. But as far as a tiny home, that's out of my league.
So in the past, so everybody knows, because of Laura's hard due diligence and work, the last two times, when we bought two other buses, we wound up we got Obama bucks towards buses because, get rid of your old cars. So we actually gave one of our buses to West River in exchange for one of his old ones, and in exchange for him to drive the bus up to the school instead of turning around at the firehouse. And we had to destroy the engine, cut the frame, and make it inoperable, the two of them that we got rid of. In the past, what we've done is once a new bus is here, we put it out and we send it out that we have this bus with this mileage and this engine. Like Mark and you were saying, some people, it's usually not a bus company that buys it. Somebody may buy it for the engine, because 100,000 miles on a diesel engine, 10 years old, is not a lot. Or somebody may buy it for parts, or somebody may buy it for storage. But again, we don't get a whole lot of money for them. And some people have actually bought them to scrap them. So I think that's what we're going to see. So once the new bus is here and we're happy, we'll put the old bus, we'll do something in the paper letting people know that, we have a bus for sale, sealed bid, present it to the board by a certain date. We'll open the bids, and whoever gives the high bid will buy the bus.
Okay.
Mark, was that your intent, or did you have something else in mind?
In all honesty, I figured based on the number that Dave got, trade-in was probably going to be our easiest route, but I've got no problem. My motion does not include what we do with the existing bus.
Right.
So we can decide that.
If you're going to do trade-in, that should have been done at the RFP. You say, how much for the new bus, and how much are you giving us for trade-in?
I was not involved in the creation of the RFP, so I didn't have the opportunity to include that.
I would have thought that the board would have okayed the representatives would have okayed the RFP before it went out. I also
We do not see it.
Okay, that's interesting. My other question is, I like involving Dave and Helen because they drive buses, but did we check with the road commissioner who winds up working on stuff? And that we've always, talked to in the past. to make sure that the engine is right and the gear ratios are right?
We did not, and he was not at the committee meeting.
Okay. Yes, Matt?
What we did get information on is who would be potentially servicing it. And Matt, I apologize, I don't remember their letters, AJ or RJ or something along those lines.
Down in Guilford?
EJ's,
Oh,
Guilford.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's who services your buses now.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Mark,
I think, oh, sorry.
Oh, are you all set, Mark? Because I'm going to go to Matt.
Yeah, Matt very well may have better answers than I do on that.
No, Dave, just to answer your question, Rich, Dave did speak to Travis about the bus, and so they talked about, the size of the engine and the gear ratio. They did discuss the performance as indicated in the RFP before Greg wrote the RFP. So there was some conversation about that.
Yeah, because we have totally different bus requirements in like West River would for the flatlands.
So they thought this configuration was best suited for our description of the demands.
Okay. Everybody on the board all set? Tennille, go ahead.
Hi, is this bus replacing one of the buses that's currently in Dover?
Yes.
Okay.
All set? Hey, that time you're doing it right. You must have that one-legged stand and hand thing doing good.
I found the spot.
Okay, don't move. Mark, go ahead. You had your hand up again.
One very important thing. This bus will say River Valley School District on the side, not Dover.
Cool. Thank you, Mark. Will it have a logo on it? It'll say River Valley instead on the side.
We don't have a logo yet, so we can decide that once we have a logo.
And will a picture of it be on the new website?
A picture of you will be on the bus.
Wow.
Front on the hood.
That's right.
So with my mouth open and catch the flies?
So you can caution Rich is on board.
Thank you, Mark. Are you guys all ready to vote?
I believe so.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 It appears to be a unanimous vote. Peter, are you disappointed you don't have to do a roll call vote?
You can make it up to me later.
Okay. It's unanimous in the ayes, so congratulations. And that actually isn't a bad turnaround. I mean, I've ordered trucks that have taken longer than that, so good job, folks.
Yeah, I wanted to, Richard, just talk a
Yes,
little bit.
go ahead.
I don't want to talk during the motion because it's not related, but kind of is. Since we talked about the trade-in, I do have concerns, financially because of this vote, and then we have another bus, if I understand correctly, only 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
A little older, so then the 106 is going to pretty much deplete the entire transportation. It's my understanding, and I don't know all the details, that they were looking into an electric bus up in Leland and Gray in that area, and they came close, maybe someone knows more about it than I do, they came close to getting a grant that would have fully funded the cost of the bus, and they would have gotten a grant for the infrastructure to charge it. And also, I think in order to get that, you had to trade in an old bus, like you were saying with Obama Buck, you had to trade in the old one. I'd like to volunteer to do some research towards that, maybe on the committee as well, since we have a little bit of time, 2 years, that'd probably be the lead time be necessary to at least look into it and see if that's an option before we spend another 110 grand 2 years later.
And in a couple of years, I mean, it could be a whole different
Plus,
world.
the technology could catch up.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
So first of all, Dwight, I think it's a great idea to look into that. In general, the grant that was offered to West River was not one they sought out. They were one of a small number of districts, I believe across the country, that were offered the grant due to various aspects of their district. I don't know all the details, so there may be grants out there. That particular grant, of which I can get the information for you, we would not be eligible for.
Yeah, I think I heard that too, that's passed, but there may be others we could be eligible for.
So
Absolutely.
and again, it changes. So Laura came to a school board meeting once when we were at Dover and said, "Hey, we can trade a bus in." And so we said, "Okay, let's go 2." It cost us $40,000, and everything over the 40 was paid for by the grant.
Right.
And we just had to get rid of 2 old buses. So we asked for 2 and we got 1. So we went to the superintendent at the time and said, "Look, they had enough money to do 20 buses. They only did 4 buses because nobody knew about the grant. We weren't sharing. So we wanted a second bus, and we wanted the superintendent to go to bat for us, and he refused. But then very few districts had the $40,000 that they could spend, and because of our capital reserve budget, we had enough to buy the second one, and we were able to work the deal with West River. So it is something that we were able to pay attention. So we even if we're thinking of doing that, we want to make sure that we recapitalize enough in our reserve funds, so that if a deal does like that comes around again, that we at least have enough to be able to do that and move forward. Because we actually, one bus wasn't that old. One bus is only 4 or 5 years old. Because we used to be like 5 years apart, so it would swap over. But because of Obama, we had one bus right after the other, and these are the buses we're still running today. So, Peter, go ahead.
Thank you. Just mentioned that the details on that grant for an electric bus were pretty thoroughly covered in the minutes for River Valley in the last couple of months.
In West River.
West River, thank you, Peter.
Yeah, sorry.
Great, thanks.
Some river, rather.
Yeah, hopefully their minute taker got it right, huh, Peter?
Oh, they have a really good minute taker.
Yeah, no, I heard that. That's why I was going to say, we've been trying to get them for years over here.
In this case, it was me, actually.
No, I thought you do them all the time anyways.
No, they just for the hateful stuff.
Oh, sorry. I thought you did it all the time.
Long-term planning committee.
Oh. Okay. So anyways, is there anything else under new business? Mark, you said you had another announcement.
I have another announcement. There's more under transportation still.
Oh, go ahead.
All right.
The update, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the transportation update. So the second issue that we talked about was a letter, an email, I believe, Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong, a request from a parent who was representing a number of parents over in Wardsboro, asking for an additional bus stop at Upper Podunk, I believe. We discussed it and asked Todd Wally to take a look at it for safety concerns. Number of safety concerns were brought up, and we will be making a final recommendation Thursday when we meet on that.
This Thursday?
Yes.
What was that?
This Thursday?
This Thursday.
Okay.
Yes. And Dwight, bring up the EV buses on Thursday. Maybe we can have a little group that works on it.
I'm not going to yell at you.
No.
Okay, I will.
Last was a letter from, which we've all seen, from a parent asking for either reimbursement for expenses for bus service to other schools outside of our area, or for us to put on additional buses to schools outside of the area, specifically to schools in the BRSU. So I guess Mountain School and BPA. This was a topic that the committee had taken up a few years ago. We've taken it up again, and we are awaiting some numbers from Todd Lawley on what it would cost to put a bus route on, and also some pricing from the BRSU on what they would charge to add some stops to their existing bus that would be closer to us. So we'll have that information on Thursday as well.
So, Mark, are you all set?
I am.
Mark, I have a question for you. Under number 2.3, the discussion of moving the existing bus stop and the bus stop sign.
Right. Sorry, I didn't actually bring that up, but I probably should. The bus stop at Stratton Arlington Road is currently taking place in Tammy's driveway.
Yes.
And causing some concern of traffic and safety. So discussion of moving it, and I don't know the landscape, maybe Tammy can help me, but moving it down the road a little bit further so that more vehicles could be, I guess, on Stratton Arlington Road rather than on 100.
Right. So I do know the geography very well. I happen to be Tammy's next door neighbor. And I just want to raise the point that the sign itself, and I think we need to look at exactly what it is. I'm under the impression that it is a warning to motorists that a bus stop is ahead. When Steve was driving, he actually added on his own accord the bus stop essentially right in front of Tammy's and Lucas's driveway, mainly because of, frankly, my children. He was not asked to do it. It was something he did out of concern for the kids and to keep them more safe by utilizing the bus to actually block traffic in both ways so that the kids could actually load on. So as far as I knew, and we knew even then, the actual bus stop is at the intersection of Stratton Arlington and Route 100. So moving that sign may, and I don't know what the exact motorway rules are as to how much distance an impending bus stop sign should be from the actual stop itself. I just wanted to bring that to your attention as a member of the committee.
Just so you know, there's a standard. There's standard set, and there's a book that every road commissioner should have that tells you that based on, engineering and principles and stuff. So Mark, do you have the road commissioner involved from Wardsboro?
They were invited to the meetings and have received emails. They have not participated as of yet.
Okay, that would be very important because there's money from the state available for signage usually, and there are standards, and you can find those standards. If you send me an email and remind me, because I'll forget before I walk out the door, that tells you how many feet depending on if there's a curve or elevations and stuff, and there are recommendations from, I think it's a National Highway Safety yeah, I forget the acronym, but there is something out there you should be able to find, and we don't need to waste a lot of meeting time here, but we should definitely get that for you for your meeting on Thursday.
And just for the record, I believe that moving that sign would require the AOT doing so.
No, Stratton Arlington Road is a town road. It doesn't. It shouldn't require Route 100.
I thought the sign was on 100. Oh, it's not?
No.
I think.
Okay.
I think there may be a sign on 100 by Upper Podunk.
But that's
but it's an old sign that doesn't. It says upcoming.
Okay.
Maybe what Mark's referring to.
You know what, Dwight, on your way home, take a picture of it and send it to Mark if you see it, or on your way in and out tomorrow.
I've only been down 1,000 times. I don't know.
Mark, just go to work tomorrow the back way.
As long as I'm not running late.
Okay.
And Mark, also, given that there's some discussion with a private homeowner about the Upper Podunk situation, I would like to offer here in the public forum that the way my driveway is set up, we can actually house more vehicles off the road. And so that would be another option where the bus makes the left-hand turn onto Stratton Arlington and stops immediately. There would be room for anybody who happens to be driving to that bus stop, if we are not able to add one farther south on 100 for the Wardsboro kids, that our family would be happy to utilize as a stopping point.
So So the party's now expanding from Tammy's house to Chad's house?
We're just going to move it over so that that she can get to school without having to dodge through kids and whatnot. Okay, great.
So I think that's good. The electric vehicle thing, yes, Dwight, I mean, that would be a very appropriate thing to bring up to the group and to, you know, if we want to do some research.
Great, thank you.
So I think we've pretty much killed transportation. Does anybody have any other transportation issues? Hearing none. Mark, under new business, you wanted to talk quickly about policies, we added it in the beginning of the meeting. So I guess a bunch of policies came out from VSBA at the last VSBA meeting, and Mark has said that he would be willing to try to work on them. I think Mark and Kate, last meeting I said Kate and I would work on any policies we had to, but Mark feels for consistency he would like to continue with that. Did you have anything else, Mark?
No, it came out the day after we met, whenever we had the retreat. Feels like a year ago.
No, September 12th, last week.
A week ago.
There was there's one new one and a handful of revisions based on statutory changes. I have not gone through them in any great detail, but the impression I got from talking to the person at the VSBA in charge of them was that there were some important changes in there that we should not just wait to adopt. So I just wanted to make that known to people, and I think the committee can figure out a time to meet amongst ourselves.
Okay, so Mark, I remember laughing heavily at the old movies where the guy's mouth would move a lot, and then it would stop, and then the words would come out, and that's what you're doing to us right now. So I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing about something else. Where'd you go?
Laugh at that.
Okay, much better, buddy. So is there any other new business?
I know what he's doing.
Yeah. One thing. No, I wasn't, Laura. I just want to, September 29th, you all should have received notices, but September 29th is our VSBA Windham County Regional meeting. You can sign up for it on the VSBA's website, btvsba.org. It is from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Dan will be running, well, there's going to be some discussion on the governance standards, which are required as part of, and all of a sudden I'm losing the number, Laura, the People Waiting Act, whatever that number was.
Yeah, sorry, it's not there.
There'll be some discussion on that to bring people up to date. There are governance standards that the AOE is going to be implementing by rule for all school boards. And we will be electing a representative. I happen to be the one who's up for election this year. So hopefully people will come and listen and participate.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, if there's nothing else, I have 5 contracts here. I really don't think there's a whole lot of discussion, so we can just do these in open session because we have to vote on them in open session. So we have a contract for Allison Claire, for long-term sub, and it'll be 52 days, 10/24 through 1/18 at a salary of $13 through 8/32. We have one for Crystal Roby for a food service person, and that's an hourly rate of $16.50, and it's a full-time position. We have one for Crystal Griswold to be the laughter coordinator from July 1st to June 30th, and that's $14,054 stipend. We have another one for Tracy Gamache, for the IB coordinator from July 1st through June 30th. And that, in the past, that's been a $6,000 stipend, a $12,000 stipend. When we originally set it up, we were thinking we would just have one coordinator, but some very brilliant person came up with the idea of splitting it up.
And so what is the amount?
$6,000.
Thank you.
And then the second one is for Crystal Griswold to be the IB coordinator, the other IB coordinator, and that's $6,000 also. So Peter, I'm gonna send you, Matt's gonna send you an email with all these, so you don't have to write them all down quickly. Can somebody make a
So
motion
moved.
to approve those 5, have the board chair approve the 5 contracts?
So moved.
Or moves, do we have a second?
Second.
Chad seconds it. Is there any other discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 It appears to be a unanimous decision. It is. It's 8:15. We started, well, I have 10 after 8. We started a little bit late, but it's about a 2-hour meeting. I think we've accomplished a lot. We've had a lot of good, respectful discussion. I appreciate it from everybody. I think we got a lot of stuff moved forward. So again, we all did a really good job. You all pat yourselves on the back. Thank you, all the public, for coming. There's some really good questions and discussion, also from you all. So thank you very much.
May I make a motion to adjourn?
Okay, we'll give it to Kate. Thank you, Kate.
Great.
Dwight seconds it. Everybody's in favor, and we will move out. Move on. And those two. Thank you, everybody.